It is March 19th, 2019. This is the Wrestling Inc. podcast talking about SmackDown. 3 episodes tonight. Today was the number 3 episode before WrestleMania. 2 more weeks to go. Saw Kofi Kingston in the Gauntlet match tonight to earn his spot at WrestleMania. And we got to talk about that ending first.
What didn't you like about it? Jackson over here is a huge fan of it. What didn't you like?
I like that they're extending it, but doesn't seem like what a build-up. You know, to have it just at the end be like, oh, Kofi, you won. You got to face one more guy. And then, nope, you lost. Too bad.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic. I don't have an answer for you guys.
We have two episodes to go before WrestleMania. It's like you're going to announce the WWE Championship match on the Go Home show.
This is what I mean. I don't have an answer. It's
yeah, it's I don't know. I did think it was a little, the odds against Kofi to begin with were a little ridiculous with how stacked they were.
Sure.
But I'm still into it. I'm still into Kofi getting that win. You're still pulling for him.
Not by their design. It's because of our own design. I would argue similar to that of Daniel Bryan, right? It's almost like they're doing it in spite. They're screwing it up and they act like they're all so slick and we're dragging them along and we're fish hooking them along in the storyline. Perfect. No, you're not. You're ruining it, but you can't ruin one thing, WWE. It is the real life factor that this guy's been there from jump, and we've all seen him for so many years there, get pushed to the back of the line, and we are all emotionally invested in the real life Kofi Kingston getting that push and getting that championship. It has nothing to do with you and your crap right.
Yeah. I think it's just, again, man, 2 episodes to go. You're going to the well too often. We get it. Yeah, the storyline, again, it makes no sense. Vince hasn't explained. A good story, you want to know why a heel is doing what they're doing. Why is Vince against Kofi being in this main event? Why is Kofi's beating all his top guys? Why is he still against it?
I did think they kind of painted that. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought they're doing the whole Daniel Bryan, he's a B-plus player thing. He's not good enough. We weren't wrong all these years, Kofi. You know what I mean? To book you the way we have, you're in the middle of the pack. You're a good, entertaining act, and you're right in the middle.
They kind of went there at the beginning. Remember when Kofi was giving a speech, he was saying, I was always told the champions don't look like me. But they never said what we always hear on social media, which is WWE historically has not had a lot of African-American champions in the main championships. Why not just say it? And then
I wish they would go there.
Vince could even say the answer that everybody says, well, The Rock. And then everyone goes, wait, what's The Rock again? What's his background?
Because I honestly don't think that's their story. I think if it was
no, it's not the African American thing, but it is that he's a mid-carder,
right?
Yeah. And they're not wrong. The fans are wrong.
Yeah. I don't think they want that aspect of the story, and with how corporate and everything they are, they don't want that out there. that there hasn't been an African American winning a world championship at Mania.
Well, then somebody else give me the answer to this question, then, because this is a great question. Why hasn't there been? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It is a really good question. Or in general, why aren't there more African American performers? Even in just general, they don't have to be champions. Just in general.
And I think it's more the climate, though, Raj. 15 years ago, Vince McMahon said the N-word on TV.
He did?
Oh, yeah. It's a famous
thing. That's right. I remember.
He was trying to talk slang.
Terrible.
Yeah, I'm just saying, they've gone there in the past. I think that would be a reality storyline, but you're right. It's too real right now, given the current climate.
And our country's so divisive right now.
Just give a good storyline reason why Vince doesn't want, a real good storyline reason. Like he has his own guy picked that he wants in that spot. Like he's got, like they did with Charlotte. He has Charlotte picked for, and that's another thing. They're doing the same storyline. They just did it with Becky. Now they're doing it with Kofi. The McMahons, it's just kind of killing this the storyline.
Yeah, I miss having a GM. I mean, I really feel like, because it's the story with the McMahons. It's like the thing with Shane being against the Miz. It's just all the McMahons are assholes. It's like we need someone else in the middle. I don't feel like the McMahons are doing a very good job of being on-screen villains right now. I think Stephanie does it well, but I think when it comes to Vince and now Shane, I feel it's two-dimensional.
Vince's best days are behind him.
Yeah, Vince's best days are behind him. I don't agree with Stephanie. I feel like she's in one segment touting the women's revolution, the next she's being a heel to Becky. It's just so inconsistent.
Stuff with little kids and Make-A-Wish, all these things, She's amazing at all that. And then the next segment, we're supposed to think she's this villain.
Right.
Yeah. Anyhow, it's funny in the chat room. What we're saying with The Rock specifically is that, yeah, I feel like people with
Samoan
The Rock,
and African American.
Well, African Canadian, but it's kind of like Vin Diesel. I think that The Rock has.
Is that what? Hey, hang on. Give me a little. Give me a little civics lesson here. Is that really what you say? You'd say African Canadian?
That's what it says on the web. So it's or Black
Wow.
Nova Scotian is also
Okay.
the name for it. So yeah, so that's interesting. But I think that The Rock has that quality like Vin Diesel does. Every group can kind of claim him. You know, he's got that multi-cultural appeal, right? It's like Vin Diesel. You don't know exactly, but you feel like there must be something in there I relate to.
My wife has 13 ethnicities. Like you know what I mean? And she tries to claim one, like St. Patrick's Day the other day. I'm like, don't you even. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm 113. I'm like, take the green shirt off. You don't get celebrated. Nope.
Yeah. And there have been African American African American champions now with Booker T and Mark Henry, just not the top world champion when there's the two belts, the top one outside of The Rock. And
and it's just something that comes up every so often, and it would be a huge deal. It would be an absolutely huge deal if Kofi Kingston were to win that title.
Oh my goodness, right?
Well, not just because of that, but just because he is super over right now. It's a great story, and WWE is just bad with the storylines right now. I mean, they've cooled Becky off a lot. She's still hot, but she's not as hot as she was 3 months ago. Crowds into it. Go with that story. Give a good feel good moment. Tell a good story. It's screwing in every week. It gets people. Just after a while, you just get frustrated, and they're like, "Why do I watch this if it just makes me bummed out?"
Raj, do you know? Have you heard anything? Do they do they pull back at all, or really anchor down Brian's BG James his writing? Do we know his creative?
Not. I mean, ultimately, it all comes down to
he's good. He's
go.
creative as F. Like I would kill to have him like producing my stuff.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's so many writers. The writers get so much flack, and then if you talk to them after they're done with WWE, and they'll tell you ideas they had and storylines they had that they pitched that just get turned down.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just
Because I would argue, didn't that show kind of turn around when Brian took over it? Kind of no.
It was Ryan Ward was kind of when it really started, when fans were really getting into it.
Okay.
Who was from NXT, and then he was working with Road Dogg. But yeah.
Okay.
No, Ryan Ward's on Raw now. Road Dogg is still SmackDown. Mm-hmm. But I still thought, look, overall, I thought this was a good show. I just think the story, it's dragging on when we're so close to the event.
Just feels like, and this is my 2 cents, I'm not sticking up for another fellow wrestler of mine, but I just feel like he's super creative. I just feel like somebody, like there's something there that we're not aware of, that he's being overruled or something's going on here, because this show is usually in my opinion, versus Raw, flawless by comparison. Usually storylines they let breathe, they let them organically develop. They try to stay out of their own way. And then whatever they see, they go with and they push. That's how the whole evolution of Becky started, right? They stay out of their own damn way with her and just let her do her thing. And then she just blew up. Kofi, same thing. And then now we're getting near Mania. It feels like everybody gets all nervous and antsy, and they put the damn brakes on these whatever you call them, handcuffs on some of their more creative people that brought them to the dance. Man, let Brian do his thing. Just let him do his thing.
Get Vince out of the way.
Yeah, that's my polite way of saying this. I try to dance around to be polite, but
But with Vince in the story, though, I think Vince does need to offer some sort of justification. He just looks like a massive asshole in the whole thing. And I mean, that works for him as a character, but normally he always has some sort of clever, I don't know, maybe even from real life. I should tell the story about Kofi confronting him after the airplane ride, then finding out it was because Jericho told Kofi, if you don't stand up to Vince, you're never going to respect you.
True.
Something, anything.
Right, anything. Just tell a story. Tell a story without taking all these shortcuts, and he just doesn't want to miss champ. To go a little farther than that.
Especially
wrestling fans.
Yeah,
that would have been a cool additive to the storyline for the record. I would have loved that.
Well, and because he's protecting, here's what makes no sense. Why did he bring Daniel Bryan out as the final boss? It looks like Vince is in cahoots with the vegan socialist who composts and wants to save the environment. That doesn't seem like Vince McMahon's natural buddy.
Right, and didn't he want AJ Styles to beat Bryan just a few months ago? And he was like trying to get his fire back.
He wanted him to kill him, like murder him.
Right.
He wanted him to maim him and like eat his arm and stuff. Remember?
Yeah. It's just so inconsistent. It's just him being a heel for the sake of being a heel without storyline consistency.
And they think that, as Bruce Pritchard would say, they could that they're sprinkling the Vince McMahon dust on Kofi. So therefore, this is what's really going to get Kofi over. I would argue no, not anymore.
I said it on Twitter. Oh, sorry.
It's clear it's going to be Kofi. I mean, they have no one else built up. There's not like there's anyone there. It doesn't look like they're going to do a multi-way.
We should not be sitting here and figuring that out ourselves, like in real life, right? The storyline should be putting that to us on a silver platter, and it makes sense. And this is why you're going to want to see this main event match, and
right? Yeah, I mean, it should be the matches announced ahead of time. Then you do the promos, you do the build, you get them face to face, you get people pumped, you have the hot angle the final week, you do a final, a big thing on the go home show, and historically that's how it's always worked best. And anyway,
yeah. It's just weird. I did say on Twitter, it would have been an awesome ending if Vince would have torn off his suit and said, "You have to beat me," and then just got in there. That's what I was sitting there, fingers crossed, like, please, God, just please make this happen.
Black
Vince
tank
would
top,
book himself to win.
Yeah.
Tank top wearing Vince McMahon.
Yeah, actually, that would have been awesome, even if Vince would have beat him, because then, we could have had that the next 2 weeks. It would have kept it interesting, but instead, it's just, I don't know, this is running in place. They're repeating it. What's he going to have to do? Yeah. So we'll see. We'll talk about that more later in the episode, but we opened with The Miz, speaking of McMahon's, coming out and rebutting what Shane McMahon said about why Shane decimated him in front of his dad after Fastlane, after their match at Fastlane, and that he's gonna beat him at WrestleMania. So Miz is full baby face now, and the crowd seems to be going for it, right?
Definitely. We all like a heel Miz, obviously, but I think to get back to like super duper over main event level Miz, he's got to go through this babyface gear, if you will, right? To get back there, because they can't just stay the same. I hate when they stay the same. They've got to add layers to their characters, and they've got to do those ups and downs, the peaks and valleys in their careers and character development. So this is a good little layer for his character. Yeah. And I'm happy to see him get a much deserved, pretty spotlit match on WrestleMania.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was a great promo. Matt, to your point, exactly where the characters, he's been a heel forever. This freshens him up a bit. I don't see him being a babyface long. He's just a much better natural heel. But he said everything right. I thought it was a great promo by Miz. I do not care about this match. Like when I think about them actually wrestling, I'm sure there'll be a crazy spot by Shane.
Right.
But I just, as a match, it's not something I'm dying to see.
I think this could be on the pre-show. Again,
they're not putting a McMahon on the pre-show.
Well, going back to that logic that the pre-show is seen by more people than the show itself, didn't USA one year show the pre-show to WrestleMania? I seem to recall that.
I think they did.
So what I'm saying,
they used to do that all the time with Heat. The Heat was on before the pay-per-view. So
I'm just saying with Miz and Mrs., I'm telling you, I'm predicting it. I could see being the last thing on the pre-show that before the USA switches off.
The USA advertised that though as one of the featured matches. Did you see the commercial for it on Raw last night? I don't think they're in a pre-show.
Maybe not. Although it is a very stacked Mania card. I mean, but to Raj, to your point,
stacked in week somehow. Let's just be honest. When we say stacked,
it's stacked with a lot of.
Let's not get crazy
for sure.
That's kind of the WWE right now. Isn't it the WWE right now? It's stacked with talent, but the product is weak.
Yeah, which is weird because I would argue this is the best talent from top to bottom they've had in many, many years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as far as in-ring talent
goes,
good Lord.
Yeah, the stuff you could do with this talent on a card like Mania, instead of putting 50 people in one match, put the people that really deserve it, that you could tell the best storylines, that you could have the best angles, and go with that as opposed to this. Women's tag is going to be a cluster.
I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that one match.
Really? The Iconics in the WrestleMania match?
Because to get the Iconics up, I want them up. I want them elevated more. And I think this will help because they get ignored on SmackDown.
Yeah. I thought they were good tonight. So they came out set up Sasha and Bailey, making Bailey wrestling for her first time ever on SmackDown. Sasha and Bailey wrestling Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. And yeah, this match was what it was. Lacey Evans walked down the ramp in the middle of it and distracted them, allowing the Iconics to pick up a win, which was interesting. But yeah, it's very clear that they're going to be in that match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, 4-way, Beth and Natalya, and Tamina and Nia.
I like all 4 teams though. I'm not going to pretend I don't. I know too much is more is usually less, right? And less is usually more. Is the way it works. But in this case, I'm okay with this. I don't know why I am. I think it's more because I'm hoping, like I said, the Iconics get a little bit of a bump here, being on Mania, right? And they get elevated through the process.
Well, they got a big win here tonight.
What do you think about? I asked this today on social media. What do you think about Lacey Evans being Becky Lynch's first feud, if that were to happen? She was criticizing Becky Lynch on Lillian Garcia's podcast, saying Becky's calling herself the man. Why isn't it enough to be the woman?
Oh, Jesus Christmas. Was she being real? I told you what my friend told me. My friend had a tryout there. My friend had a tryout there, and she said she thought she was Miss Thing. That's all I'm going to say. She was like one of the trainers, like helping out and stuff, and she thought she was Miss Thing. I was like, that's weird because she hasn't even been called up yet, and she was acting like that. I'm surprised.
Supposedly
You're supposed to be humble, whether you before you get called up, especially. And so when somebody comes in, they don't know what they're doing in their trial camp. You help them and you do whatever you can. You don't act like high and mighty, like, oh, I'm some grizzled vet who's been doing this for 20 years, especially her because she hasn't.
Yeah.
So that's first thing.
Right. And I also think that's, we've seen Lacey Evans in the ring. I think she needs some work. She needs to work with someone like Natalya or someone that can help get her ready, because she's not ready for a big high profile feud with Becky. I remember when they were trying to push Dana Brooke to the moon, right off the bat, and she wasn't ready. And then
there's nothing wrong with that. Hell, I wasn't ready. I can admit that. They threw me in the Team Lesnar in main event. Our match was supposed to be the main event Survivor Series. Triple H just griped enough to get his 5-on-5 match thrown in there at the last second over ours, but we got paid like it was the main event of Survivor Series. Nice. But I was thrown right into the frying pan is my point when I was not ready. What do you say? Oh, I want to be called up. I want to be sent back to OVW. I'm good. No. Right. But so take that with a grain of salt, fans, when you watch these newbies get called up and they're not ready. It's not their fault. Remember that. Right. But you're right though, Raj. She's really it's not me crapping on her. I was in the same position. She's just not ready, and that character is gonna be disastrous.
That's why I thought. Who was it, Meltzer, Raj, that said that they see her as the female Roman Reigns? Was his quote?
What?
I think fans probably took it as like that. I don't think she said that. I think they were saying that about Charlotte.
I would argue bigger.
Yeah,
I would argue Charlotte is bigger than the women's division than Roman would be for the men's.
Well, Charlotte, they were saying it when she was a babyface and Becky was the heel, and because the fans were turning on Charlotte, going with Becky, starting to boo Charlotte every time she came out. But with Charlotte, they went with it, and she's an awesome heel now.
She's gonna go down as the best in history when this is done, though. Watch.
Yeah.
No, she's absolutely fantastic as a heel. So one thing that got a lot of attention on social media tonight is that Rey Mysterio was backstage. He announced that he, for the WWE United States Championship, he's going to face Samoa Joe at WrestleMania. But he was there with his son, who is very tall, his son Dominic.
Why? What does that mean?
Because they were on social media. Seriously, I think, Raj, did you see more? I saw more about this tonight on my feed than anything else, just about the height disparity, just how big Ray's son is. Because I think the last time he was on TV with his
Little
dad.
Dominic.
Yeah, exactly.
Little Dominic's like taller than Ray?
Oh, like significantly.
That's awesome.
Dominic is like 14 feet tall compared to Ray. He was gigantic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. In storyline, did it end with Eddie was his father, or did that end up being?
That's what he kept saying. Remember, I am your poppy. Yeah. Eddie.
But it stole the show tonight. It's amazing how bringing him back to, that on social media was one of the probably top 3 trending things from tonight's SmackDown. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, people remember.
He's a tall kid.
Yeah.
And he's training. He's working. he's been working with I think Jay Lethal. So,
oh, nice. Yeah. So after that, we had and also United States Championship match at WrestleMania. Samoa Joe, Rey Mysterio. They're going to add other people to that match, right?
Yeah. I would think so. Yeah, he still hasn't. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
For Joe's sake, I was hoping they just keep it to Rey Mysterio. That's a high-profile match.
Yeah, they could do some great stuff.
Yeah.
Andrade, I could see them adding him and R-Truth just because.
Can you just go away.
Yeah, but they never did anything. They never had Joe beat R-Truth, right?
Who cares?
So, well, Joe won the title without ever beating R-Truth, so that leads me to believe that they're protecting R-Truth a little. So he's got
what? Say that sentence again. Say the whole sentence again. Go.
Well, protecting him until Mania. So giving him a reason to be in the U.S.
I just want this to be a soundbite so we can go back and watch it again. They're protecting R-Truth. You heard it here first, folks.
But they haven't had Joe beat him yet, so that just I hope it's not a 4-way, just because I feel like it feels like they've done that 4-way a bunch of times or 3-way.
It doesn't do anything. It cheapens everything. None of those guys are going to get more over because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, is anyone really going to get over at this WrestleMania? I think the women will if they go on last.
Ray versus Joe, and if they let Joe just demolish him, which they won't, but if they just let him demolish him, would be great. And yes, it could get him over.
Yeah, maybe.
Drew, if Drew got a good win over Roman, I think that would take him. Well,
yeah. Kevin Owens came out for the Kevin Owens show tonight and said that he's going to be watching Kofi later in the Gauntlet match. So everyone was rooting for Kofi is really how they set this up. Everyone who wasn't in that match was rooting for Kofi. But then he brought out his guests, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Very little talking between them, and then they just ended up beating each other up. I feel like we've seen variations of this before. We got to drag this out for 2 more weeks, guys. Is it losing steam?
I like watching their stuff a little bit, but not enough nearly that I all of a sudden don't want to see it. It's still my must-see match on this card.
Yeah. I thought he looked good. I thought he looked good out there. But he also didn't feel like he's feeling like less of a main eventer already.
Definitely that.
I feel like they need to put him into something, and I don't know if they'll do that in the next 2 weeks, but something meaningful, because he's a big star. He just came back, and just to kind of put him back to interviewing Charlotte and Becky, I just see bigger things for him.
I mean, if they don't put him in the match with AJ and Randy, and I don't know what the story would be. It's not for a title, but I mean, I could see him in the Andre at this point.
Well, I know we don't like multi-people matches, but I would say Orton versus AJ is cold, right? Like freezing cold. Except for the nice promo they back and forth they had, that was cool, but that's not enough to hook me for a Mania match. It's not. So I could see them throwing Kevin in that actually.
Yeah.
You could put him in with the Joe and Ray match.
US title match, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame. That dude he's so good. He looks.
Yeah. This is where the writing.
You're supposed to reward that.
Well, do you think Vince really notices? I mean, I'm just saying, like, when Kevin loses weight and gets in shape, I mean, he's not Jinder Mahal,
Okay, he doesn't have to be, though. He's showing that he's taking
he looks good.
And busting his ass, right? And making the best of his body.
I agree.
Yeah. You remember last summer he was being stuffed into porta potties, and so Vince clearly sees him at a certain level.
That sounds terrible. Oh, that sounds terrible. Stuffing into porta potties.
Becky and Charlotte, I thought they had Becky really rip into Ronda, have her really rip into Charlotte. She didn't say anything tonight, and it was just kind of the same brawl that they've been doing. I think Becky, at the very least, she should have won this brawl. She's the baby face, Charlotte's the heel. Becky's kind of cooled off over the last month, with the hobbling around in the crutch.
She's the coolest of the three, would you say?
I didn't think tonight. I mean, you still had the fans chanting Becky, and she seemed like a star, but
I apologize with how they've written for characters.
Oh yeah,
right.
For sure. I think over the past 3 months, for sure. Yeah.
All of these storylines, I mean, this is where the lack of writing is. They're just trying to stretch it out and stretch it out and stretch it out. There are no twists and turns. There's no developments. There's nothing that's, I don't know, compelling.
Well, the twists that they did have were just god awful. It's adding Charlotte to the match for no reason, and Becky
again,
almost getting beat by Charlotte at Fastlane, but Ronda interfered, so she weaseled her way into the match.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, you think back to the 80s. One, it was still new to the majority of us, wrestling on TV, this psychology. But at the time, there were like 50 other shows on TV. Now there's 500 other shows on TV. I think it's a lot more competitive, and the standard of storytelling has gone up so much that the WWE just needs to up their game, because it's not the performers that are the problem. It's not the in-ring work that's the problem. It's just like, man, when you have an episode like this, it's heavy on story. It really shows the weaknesses in their storytelling.
Yeah, the storylines are worse now than they've been ever, right?
So here's go on, really quick, Raj. So here's my question. You know all the backstage crap that goes on there. Have they tried a different avenue with the writers? Because they've done wrestlers. They've gone from big steroided up, jacked up giants to little tinier guys that flip flop and fly. Now we've got a nice little hybrid going there where a lot of them are at least athletic looking, but they're still diminutive by years past. They've changed and they've evolved with talent, with production. Have they evolved with writing is my question.
Here's a perfect example. Think of WrestleMania 5, right? Remember Hogan versus Macho Man?
Oh, yeah.
And the stuff with Elizabeth, and how that started at WrestleMania 4, and how every month you get a little more and more teases and more teases. And then when it finally erupted, and then you had them doing the crazy promos, and it just all made sense. It was a year build, and that story, and it resulted in one of the biggest buy rates they've ever had. So, and look what you see now. 2 weeks out, you don't have the WWE Championship.
So here's my question: what do we do? Do we change the style of writers they're hiring? Is my question. They've got to do something.
Who told us
Vince.
this?
You got to get Vince out of creative.
Yeah,
he was part of it back then in Mania 5.
Yeah, but he's 30 years older now.
Yeah, and I think he's bored more easily now. I think the celebrity of where he was in the 80s probably was a big distraction. The business was growing. But we've had people on this podcast before that have worked in creative, and I believe what they've said, soap opera writers have actually worked the best coming to the WWE, but they've tried bringing in traditional TV writers, and those are the ones that burn out very fast because they're not used to Vince's style.
24 hours a day. You got to be,
and also just you're
changing it
constantly, going week to week, as opposed to drawn out, working on storylines over
storyline arcs.
Yeah. I mean, the usual way you do it in TV, especially, is you figure out where you want to end up, and then you work backwards.
Go from there. Yeah, right. I would argue when we had Bruce Pritchard at TNA, we did that.
Yeah. But I mean, this is a show on the fly. So if Vince decides 1 week that he's bored with where the story's going, or he doesn't like a thing, it's like, no, I'm just going to change it. It's like, but Vince, we had this plan.
Do we think he cares like that much anymore? I mean, or is he that involved still in the product? Do we think?
I mean, Rush?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, but I think he thinks this is good.
Yeah, I mean, you hear these stories still when the notes and backstage comes out week to week. What does leak out? Like, oh, the show was heavily rewritten at the last minute. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like that's still happening. I'm assuming it's him. I don't think Ryan Ward is saying on Tuesday at 3:00, guys, we need to rewrite the entire show.
Yes,
sounds like a Vince call. So I don't know, but it's showing, man. Is the number one problem right now. And I was thinking about today. So Raj, Wrestling Inc. and other outlets broke today that Raw is down. A year ago, the audience was like 1 million more people who tuned out.
Yeah, it's 20%.
Yeah. And so when you think about it, some of the more entertainers, I know this comes back to we were talking about last night, like with Enzo's shoot interview, and he's claiming it's all him. It's not. But think about Jericho. Think about even when Neville and Austin Aries had on there. I mean, they lost some of their personalities. They lost some of the good stories and feuds, like when Roman and Braun was happening. I think if you were watching during the last 2 years, and you were really into Roman, Braun, Jericho and KO, Enzo and Cass, the more bigger personalities on there, that's not there so much anymore. And the storytelling, I think, is a lot lesser. There's not as good entertainment value.
Lesser?
Yeah, that's a word, right? It's a lesser form of storytelling.
Less will suffice.
Less. Yes, it's less. But even the women's division, this is the problem with Ronda, because you don't have a competitive women's division anymore. So if I tune in for women's wrestling, it's just Ronda kicking the shit out of people every week.
So much of wrestling right now is just guys wrestling for no reason. Like there's not a build, not a storyline. There's not feuds. You don't have like the larger than life feuds. Why one guy hates the other guy and the other guy does something dastardly.
Okay, but question is, can we still do that in today's day and age? Can we honestly still do that, knowing the cat's out of the bag? Everybody knows it's a work. Can we really truly do that? Do you think, honestly, for a year's worth of emotional investment?
Man, I'm trying to think of the last time they did last time they had a really good
Cena versus Rock, and because a lot of it had to be shoot, and I had a lot of hurt feelings over it, but it had to go like something like that, right?
Yeah. Gosh.
I don't know. I mean, if Jericho came back tomorrow, he's not going to because of AEW. If he came back tomorrow and was just like, Kevin Owens, I'm back to get my revenge, I think people would be instantly reinvested in that storyline.
Yeah. But yeah,
I'd be all over it. Yeah.
You can pick it up.
And it can work in today's wrestling. Just again, just WWE, they just don't do it. They don't go those depths. Like, Omega and Jericho, their first match, it was so well done. As far as the feud aspect and the characters and the simple things,
Wouldn't you argue is more about the actual wrestling though? Like who's best in the world and who's the best in the business today? Is Jericho still really the best in the world, or is it Kenny Omega guy? And then you add the heat of Jericho jumping him and surprising him at New Japan, all that other great stuff that layered in. But it was never like I really believe these two hate each other.
I felt like they did a good job until their first match, and then they did a podcast joking about everything and going over like each spot how they did it.
And you have to do that. You can't really crap on that or poo-poo on that because the business is where it's at today. You have to do those types of things.
No, for sure. But then when they did that thing at AEW, when they're like Jericho's in his face and they're acting like they hate each other again, it's like, well, all your fans know that the cat's kind of out of the bag. So at least do something where you're acting like you're friends right now, and then you break up, or you want to
something.
Something.
You're right.
Yeah, but if it's a good story, though, people forgive that. I mean, you don't have a problem when you see the Game of Thrones cast hanging out in believing that their characters hate each other and want to kill each other. I don't know. I think there's just more they could be doing. They have to do something. It is the number one thing that is bringing this company down right now. They can re-sign all the talent they want, but if their writing, it does not improve. I don't know. I mean, there's supposedly, so Fox wants a more sports style show. Is the audience going to tune in for that? Because if we want a more sports style fighting show, UFC just signed with ESPN Plus. We have those options now. We didn't have these options back in the 80s. We watched WWE not just for the sport. It is the entertainment factor as well. They're married.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's just so hard again in today's day and age, in my opinion. Sorry about the little children noises in the background with the kids shows. But seriously, it's in my opinion, it's difficult. It's difficult for us to legitimately, emotionally invest. If these two people do not like each other, like we did with, hey, enough, Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, right? In that storyline that we keep using. Right.
Well, and then Glenn, also with the sports aspect, there are a couple of different things. If it's one, it's just wrestler A is wrestling at wrestler B, and it's just matches, then yes, that's not going to work. But if it's trying to make the wins and losses mean something again,
sure,
and it's like it does in real sports, and trying to make it so the wins and losses make sense, and who gets a title shot makes sense, then I'm all for that.
You know what they've lost sight of, and this was a great thing that Max Landis pointed out in that Wrestling Isn't Wrestling video, is so that good. SmackDown and Raw aren't wrestling shows. They're shows about a wrestling company, and we're seeing like a little of that with Vince McMahon. They're not telling the story behind the scenes.
They need to hire that guy.
Yeah, well, I think his reputation's gotten a little tarnished since then, Google and Matt. But
okay.
It's like I always compare it that it should be like the Muppet Show. Remember how the Muppet Show would have the main show going on in front of the
yes,
stage?
Of course.
But then behind the scenes, Kermit's freaking out. Everyone's having their problems. Piggy wants this. Like that's what it needs to be. Is they need to tell behind the scenes stories that affect how we view what goes on in the ring.
That's what they do that. They've done that in the past. But,
yes, they absolutely
they're
have.
just not doing it well right
and
now.
that kind of brings back the fact that a GM is great in that role because it adds behind the scenes drama. A GM who's not a McMahon, because the McMahons have no internal conflict whatsoever right now, and that's boring.
Yeah. Where are we on the SmackDown review? We
are up, and I was going to say, case in point, AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. AJ Styles backstage. This entire match is over the fact that Randy thinks like, oh, you think it's your house you build? I've been on SmackDown longer. It's like, these are not stakes.
No, they're not. And P.S., he would have felt this way a long time ago. The minute it came out of AJ's mouth, he should have had a problem with it. Not 2 years later.
Yeah, but at the same time, you are not every match at WrestleMania is going to be a title match, and these are two big stars. You know, AJ in a singles match at Mania, so I'm all for it.
It's going to be a great match. I'm not paying to see this match.
Right? Yeah, I'm not excited for it, but it's not bringing me down from this card.
Yeah, it'll be decent. So the Gauntlet match tonight: Kofi Kingston versus Cesaro, Sheamus, Randy Orton, Rowan, Samoa Joe, and surprise Daniel Bryan. First out was Sheamus and Cesaro. Sheamus went first. They had a very competitive match. Then who was second after that? What was the order it went in? Then was Cesaro. And I liked how they had the wrestlers backstage watching it. And each time it grew the number of wrestlers that were watching the match. I thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you even had oh my gosh, why am I forgetting her name already? She was one of the NXT call-ups. They haven't done anything with her.
Nikki Cross
was like out of character backstage. You know, EC3 was back there. Like you could hardly see him.
You like that part, Raj?
I just cannot believe what they're doing with EC3.
He's getting paid. You know,
a bona fide, I argue, main event talent handed to you. Went out, got better, did everything you're supposed to go do when you get released or leave WWE. He did.
Matt, could you imagine if when you were doing TNA again briefly, when you were doing Impact again a year or two ago, if the WWE would have called you up and said, Matt, we're bringing you back. Now's your time. They agreed to all your terms. It was all good. And then you had what EC3's got going on right now, or God forbid, Mike Kanellis. I know he's on 205 Live, but if you were just hanging out backstage all the time and you were like, really? I came back for this?
No, because of the stuttering character, there's no way I deal with it. I'm like, I'm good. Bye.
No, even if they told you could be Matt Morgan, but you just don't get the time. So,
guys need to get comfortable with getting to the point where they're okay to walk away from that company. They've got to get to that point. It takes years.
Do you think, honestly, Matt, you know the wrestlers more than anyone. Do you think, and you've heard all these stories about Vince, do you think he does not like the fact that he went to TNA and got this character and created this character? And so it's kind of like he doesn't see him as a star, like in his head because of that. Because it seems odd that he wouldn't even give him a chance.
No, I would say yes in normal situations like an AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, people like that, but not EC3 specifically because he started in WWE. And also, I would argue his physique. He's a body. We all know Vince is a body guy. He loves bodies. And Homeboy has a body. So I don't, that's why it doesn't make sense.
But here's the thing, and here's why I think it would be with EC3, but not AJ and Samoa Joe. AJ and Samoa Joe weren't, stars in WWE before going to TNA. You know what I mean? Like they were kind of homegrown in TNA, but this guy left WWE. They couldn't do anything with him, and he left WWE, became a much bigger star in TNA, became found a successful character, and maybe that's why someone in the creative team. I don't know.
Well, I didn't get to the height. I wasn't a TNA World Heavyweight Champion, but I main evented 6 pay-per-views there, and I would argue when I had my opportunity to go back to WWE, it was based on my work at TNA and how much I improved since I last been in WWE. They were impressed with how much I improved, how much I grew. I was sober, all these good things, right? And I was going to come back, and then my son was born 2 weeks earlier, and I didn't go to the Royal Rumble because of it.
Yeah,
he retired, but like they verbatim used. And this was at the time when they were not touching TNA talent. So I was super proud of that fact that I was going to be like, I'm not exaggerating, the one that they were going to make the exception for because the argument was I started in WWE, time to come home kind of a thing.
That's great. No,
I think you don't think they would have had you posing in mirrors in the background?
You know what? That is the million-dollar question. That is a good point. I do not know. I don't have an answer to that. I could have been like sitting with, putting curling or rollers in girls' hair and being the hairdresser for all I know. Who knows?
Yeah. And that's a solid gimmick, that could get over.
Yeah, I just think because EC3, the name and everything was created in TNA. I just feel like that's causing.
There's logic to that. There is a lot of logic to that. I just think but Vince is big on. He likes being proven wrong. I know people don't believe that because of his ego, but he does like being proven wrong. He does. I would argue there's more heat by an AJ Styles. Who is this little crap? What's the big deal about him? Oh, it's AJ Styles. I never heard of him, even though he has. And plays that game for a year with the guy. You know what I mean? Like with Taz too. That's how he is with other talents that get over elsewhere, not his company.
Yeah. AJ was.
We know EC3's promo skills. We see his physique, and Tucker and Otis have gotten way more screen time than he has.
I don't have an answer. It doesn't make sense.
Because Vince has some notion like the tubby guy. He makes me laugh. I mean,
how do we know it's not something else? How do we know EC3 didn't do something to get heat on him? Or something like that, for all we know, and despite the heat, they're keeping him.
Maybe back in the day. I'm sorry.
No, like since he's been called up, I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing that makes sense. I mean that was what I tweeted once. Is like he's got to have some backstage heat, but normally it comes out in this day and age if that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling it's going to be one of those things where they brought him back. He was in NXT, had a positive experience, got to the main roster, and then somebody just at some point told him like, yeah, nothing's happening here. You pissed off so-and-so back as Derek Bateman. And so now you're DOA.
Derek Bateman.
I think it's one of those stupid things, right? Although Mike Kanellis, I mean, look what happened there. I mean, he got brought back. Now, granted, Maria got pregnant. I think he had some personal issues, but I mean, very quickly, he was just dropped from television.
Whatever happened? Is he still signed?
Yeah, he's on 205 Live now.
All right, good.
He appears every few weeks on 205 Live.
But that's recent. I mean, there was probably a good, year where...
Yeah. Basically, the whole time Maria was gone, he was off of TV. I think he had an appearance at the Greatest Royal Rumble, maybe something.
I'll be honest, I was never impressed. I'm not trying to just bag on the guy. I don't know him, and that's not cool to do. But still, by the same token, when he was in Ring of Honor, everyone was getting, I was like, I don't see it. I don't get it.
Yeah, but even with Maria,
his gimmick in Ring of Honor, what was his Ring of Honor gimmick again? What was he called?
Mike Bennett?
Was the Prodigy.
Oh, yeah.
So this has been something.
That was in TNA. He was
yeah, that's right.
Right?
No, he was in all white.
He was the Miracle Mike Bennett.
Yeah,
I thought was
but
kind of
before that, he was in Ring of Honor, and he was called the Prodigy. So I thought he was going to be this jacked freak of nature, kind of, just this world's perfect wrestler. If you can create the perfect wrestler to be this guy, kind of a knockoff in the Blueprint thing. I've always thought of that. Now I saw him in person, like I don't get it. Why is this guy the Prodigy?
Yeah, 7 years Ring of Honor. Wow.
What was Cena's original name? Wasn't his the Prodigy?
Prototype, and that was perfect. I thought the WWE was horribly wrong by not bringing him up as Prototype. I thought they were completely way off the mark with it.
Well,
I thought it was
cool gimmick.
Money. I thought it was instant money.
They believed in the thugonomics thing.
That worked.
I rode in his Jeep Wrangler listening to Quiet Riot, going to eat friggin' like sushi. Oh, you can eat sushi after wrestling practice. So I don't know where the rap stuff happened with John Cena. I have no clue where that became a layer in his life.
Yeah,
I had Quiet Riot, and I also had like NWA, and so
I'm telling you, every day we rode. I never heard rap songs.
Huh. Interesting. So back to the Gauntlet match. Okay, so Cesaro was defeated. Then Rowan came out, defeated Rowan. Rowan, though, was beating him outside the ring pretty hard.
Are they booking him at 7 feet, by the way? Did you hear that? 2 weeks ago,
I
could have swore they called him a 7-footer.
Oh.
Huh.
He's what, like 6'8"?
Yeah, but I like that they're doing that.
Yeah.
Everyone else is so small, it could work.
Yeah, and then Samoa Joe came out and got beat by Kofi.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like this should have been enough. I think that it would have been a high point. They could have found some other way to tell the story, but if they would have announced tonight that he was going to Mania, and then Orton as like the final boss, I thought was good.
The final boss,
right? I mean, it's kind of what
it was. Kind of like Mario in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but then
did you hear him he did the stupid at the beginning of the match? Did you hear that?
No. I'm going back and watching this now. Really?
Yeah, it was like when they were outside the ring. It was kind of a little poetic justice, I guess, kind of thing, because he lost his push over that, and now here he is, kind of, moving on to the biggest match of his life. It was a little ridiculous how stacked the odds were against Kofi. It was a little overkill. Not only is it like 6 top, huge guys, but they're also putting him through tables and just destroying him. And he's still coming back and beating him. So it's a little much, but at the same time, I was into it. I kept, I was like,
what else are they going to do? I mean, next week it's like Kofi, he can't get a ride to the ring. He has to walk to the arena. It's snowing outside somehow in March. Like there's a rain cloud following him everywhere. Just everything. Security won't let him backstage. He's got to overcome more odds, guys.
Yeah. He did it for 11 years. We already know the real obstacles he's overcome here. We don't need these phony ones.
Yeah, exactly.
We're good.
The real odds are way more interesting.
We're sold, all right? Don't ruin it.
Way more effective if they show just clips of him, like his debut, like 100%. All the stuff he's been through. And with their video packages that they do, it'd be so much more effective than this hokey stuff.
How interested would you be to hear more about his talking about having to use a stupid accent and the change from that persona like 1 week, and talking just about that, and then talking about the match with Randy and what that did to him, his confidence, it rattled him. These are just week by week segments they could do and add that real factor to it. It's like, oh, dude, he's got to win a Mania now. We've got to root for this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Look what he went through.
But this is the danger. They're doing the same thing they did with Becky, is they don't know how to stretch this out. I agree. Right. So Daniel Bryan was the final boss that Vince McMahon brought out, and it seemed like Kofi might have a chance, but then no, within like 3 minutes, Bryan ended up pinning him. It was announced he's not going to Mania. Big E and Xavier Woods, announced. Yeah, well, I mean, it was announced on the commentary. They were like, "Oh, he lost." So
that'd be funny over the intercom if they did it though.
Wait, they should have
going to WrestleMania, and they pointed to this.
Greg should have done that.
Not you.
Because when Kofi, when we thought he won, he said Kofi Kingston is going to WrestleMania to face Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship, and people thought that was going to be the swerve. Vince said, "I said you're going to Mania, but I never said you're facing Daniel Bryan."
Yes.
Yeah. So so we went off the air with Big E and Xavier Woods peeling Kofi off the canvas.
I still think it would have been funnier, Raj, if Vince McMahon came out and got on the microphone and announced, and not going to WrestleMania, pointing to the sign, the WrestleMania sign, as they go off the air and pointing back to Kofi on the ground going,
but they have
the tumbo, no.
But they have to give a reason for this. It's just so
they're not. They don't have to. They've shown that they don't have to.
They've definitely shown that.
Yeah.
But man, that stuff with Kofi and Bryan, the whatever 4 minutes they went, it was
awesome. Great.
Oh my God, what a taste!
Yeah, and Elimination Chamber 2, those guys, that match could steal the show if they're given enough time. That could be the match of the night.
I hope it really is, you guys. I hope we come back super stoked to talk about that.
And it's probably
they don't make it a multi-person match.
Good
like, oh, you didn't get your way, so now
Kevin Owens,
you'll get your way, but so is Kevin Owens.
No, oh my God, I will quit being a fan. I will quit being a wrestling fan. That will drive me over the edge.
I could see them doing it. I hope not.
No, don't put it out there.
But the cool thing about this could get the spot of the night. We know it's not closing the show. So with that in mind, if this goes on like in the middle of the card or third or fourth or even fifth to last.
Tell me that won't happen before we get off the air. Tell me that won't happen. They will not put Kevin Owens in that main event and make it a three-way. Please
could. I mean, what else is KO doing? If he doesn't get
I'm not going to go to sleep tonight. Just please lie to me.
Yeah. I mean, I hope not.
They won't do it.
Thanks, guys.
This thing with Kevin tonight makes it seem like they got no plan for Kevin.
It doesn't sound like it. Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like they go in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, his segment was to put over Becky and Charlotte tonight. Which was cool, but yeah, who knows? So this was a good episode of SmackDown, but man, 2 more weeks are going to be really, really painful if they don't figure out a way to make this just a little more interesting.
What if they do it like last year with Cena and Taker, where they never announced it? Like at the event itself, they do an angle to to have it come up. It's getting to that point
with Kofi.
Yeah, so he never gets this title match, right? And then at Mania, the Saturday Night Live guys or Alexa Bliss does something where she's like, whoever wins the Andre Battle Royal will face Daniel Bryan tonight since he doesn't have a match. And then Kofi wins that. And goes.
I can see this. Oh no, I can see this though.
You know what they could do, but I think it'll be a mistake, is they could pull a Rudy and have the roster protest. But then the problem is that makes Kofi look like a charity case. That it worked in Rudy. Like the idea, but I don't think you want that for Kofi, especially if he's going to win, to have him only get it because the entire roster is threatening to strike if he doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think he's earned his stripes by this point, though. I mean, none of us are ever going to feel it's charity at this stage.
I agree. They got to do something though. They got to come up with a way to do it. I don't know. I don't know what other match they can give it.
The world beater promo that man, whoever Kofi Kingston, whatever, what's his real name in real life? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Whoever he is, let's say it's Steve Johnson or something like that, or whatever. I want to hear from him.
And lo and behold, his real name is Steve Johnson. No, I'm kidding.
But you know what I mean? I want to hear from the man. I do. From behind the character, I want to hear what it's been like to watch these guys that you can wrestle circles around, pass you by, be promised that brass ring, and you grab so many of his imaginary brass rings. It's not even funny. And all these guys continue to pass you by. Here's your opportunity, and he continues to take it away from you. I want to hear the frustration from that guy.
Yeah, and Matt, what you said earlier about talking about how he was, rising up, and then the Orton incident happened.
Yeah,
you can mix, kayfabe with real life, and
what did that do to your confidence, Cove?
Right.
Were you nervous now to get in the ring with a big talent like that going forward, or were you not?
Right.
Did you think you'd ever get a chance again, or were you depushed because of it? What'd that feel like? How'd you make it back? Going to a three-way dance with those two other guys when they were about to be released. They had nothing really much for them, to my understanding. And now they brought you in to help, be like like a player coach almost, to help them along with their careers almost. Kofi was almost the afterthought of the three at first.
Right. Yeah.
What'd that feel like? You know what I mean? I want to hear from the man, man. He's got world beater promos in him right now. We got to hear him. They got to let us hear him.
So if they're going from the Daniel Bryan playbook, maybe next week
they are.
Next week is going to be the New Day equivalent of the Yes Movement taking over Monday Night Raw or occupying Raw.
All right. Yeah. I hope they're more creative and come up with something new, but I could definitely see that.
It's every week, right? Like what can they recycle?
Yeah. I mean, I'm drawn to what Matt said because I just think there's so much there, but
yeah. So that was SmackDown. Good show, but a little frustrating. We touched on earlier Raw's viewership. It is down for many of the same reasons. We assume that we're frustrated with the product.
Yeah, I mean, this close to Mania, that's not a good direction for the ratings to be headed. It was like, right in the middle of what it's been doing this year. So like it did better than 5 shows, worse than 6. But it's like 2.6 million. Like a year ago, we didn't think they'd be able to get under 3.
Mm-hmm.
I could see this football season, they'll be hovering around that 2, maybe even drop below 2 for big games.
Yeah,
they don't get something.
Yeah. And fans were very unhappy with this week's Raw, specifically the announcement that Baron Corbin is going to face Kurt Angle at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's like legit, like Twitter outcry, and like Kurt Angle's wife, Giovanni, like tweeted out she thought it was like a bad idea. She deleted it, but
what she put up,
she said like it is very well underwhelming or something like that, and she deleted it. What is she? Let me see what she has up there.
She's awesome, by the way. She's really kick-ass mom.
Yeah,
that's funny. And then, I'm surprised.
And then Kurt said something about, I know it's not what everyone wants. And, you're talking about a WrestleMania match.
Because it's his last match. It's one of the greatest of all time we're talking about here. Fastest.
Yeah, it's weird
to pick up the business in the history of the business.
Yeah, and it's like, I hope WWE knows the difference between heat and people making people care less for the card.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's giving them a match they don't want to see, and that's why they're bummed. Or not that they hate Corbin so much that they want to see Angle kick his ass.
But cheer more for Kurt now. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. Finn Balor would have been the way to go, Raj.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think with him as the Demon, especially if he's going to win back the IC title, like that could be really, really a big. I mean, this could be Finn's biggest WrestleMania moment we've been waiting
for. It could be, but here's the problem: they're so late for this. They're so behind. I mean, we'll still take it, right? We'll still take a Demon, but like listen to how I'm saying that, right? We used to be so excited for that damn character. And by now, it's like every month or something weeks, I expect it to be a surprise because I figure they'd figure things out. He's more over as the Demon. This other crap is not working with him smiling and playing with his jacket, wearing Bailey's ring jacket. It's not working.
He really hung up on that, Matt.
You cannot fit in a female's jacket. It just doesn't work. That does not work. It was not a good optic.
and you know, Finn, I feel like if they're going in that direction, he should have been all happy on Monday night after losing the title the week before and be like, oh, I didn't have the luck of the Irish that night.
Yes.
You know?
He couldn't have been any happier. Like, dude, you just lost your damn title. What are you doing?
Right. Yeah. Be upset.
Very upset.
Because if that's where it's leading to, he should be mad now. It should be either announce it ahead of time or you do it as a surprise. But if you're still doing it as a surprise, you should do a reason why he's doing it.
Yes. But we don't have any. That's why he's not going to do it. We don't have any reason.
Probably not. It could have just been, one of those misprints. The Undertaker is on a WrestleMania, one of the production trucks. They have a WrestleMania poster. Undertaker's on it. It could just be one of those promotional items that they just throw wrestlers' faces on it, and it doesn't mean they're showing up.
If they don't do that this year, I mean, we've said this before. It's like, well, when? I mean, I know they did it at SummerSlam last time, but Mania, like, we need that big moment.
This is last year.
Finn was back last year, or did he return right after?
Yeah, remember he had the Gay Pride shirt.
Oh, that's right. And that was really cool. When he did that entrance, he had all the people with him. That was nice. But I think the Demon needs or I don't know. I mean, talk about something they bungled. I think that just had such huge potential, and they've done nothing with it.
Agreed.
I think Baron Corbin, someone else is going to have to get added to that match. I don't think that's I think we're supposed to be pissed off at this.
It's so easy to take him out just next week, be like, hey, Kurt, this isn't what the fans want. Yeah. We know you want to get Baron Corbin. You're getting him tonight. And then your opponent for WrestleMania will be revealed later tonight.
Baron Corbin going to take somebody. The WWE's against me, the universe. You took me out of WrestleMania. Ooh. How dare you? Like the heat he can get coming out in that Raw after WrestleMania that he was left off the card because of the fans hating him so much. That's awesome for his character, actually. I think this would do more for his character now that I think about it, to get taken out of the match. Think about it.
Yeah, my worry is that the fans are so unhappy with this match that they get like Roman and Brock at last year's Mania, where they just are crapping on the match itself.
No. We're saying WB hears it quickly enough and makes the audible.
Yeah,
they can him out of the match and they bring in someone else.
Yeah, my worry is that if they don't and they stick with this with Kurt and Baron Corbin,
and that's terrible for Kurt. I asked the fans. I can't believe I'm doing this. The fans that are attending Mania, remember that this might be legitimately Kurt Angle's last match. So please remember that when you're shitting all over Baron and you're annoyed that he's in the match. Also remember that it's Kurt Angle who's battled back from addiction. He's battled back from everything, 2 broken friggin' necks, and everything along with his family, everything. He's been up and down, right? And he's got this WrestleMania match, guys. So try to remember that. He gave you a lot of entertainment over the years, and just try to respect that versus just getting over Baron Corbin, which deserves to happen. I agree with you. However, remember there's Kurt Angle and there's all I'm saying.
And it's his first, assuming it stays a singles match, it'd be his first singles match since he wrestled Shawn Michaels, right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Wow.
And so he's had some great WrestleMania memories. Before that, with Eddie.
Go out the right way, guys. Even though WWE's too stupid to do it the right way, it doesn't mean you guys can't make sure he's not that feel good moment getting out of that ring, whether he wins or loses.
And is Cena going to miss Mania completely?
Who cares?
Cena versus Angle would be great.
You love that, just to wrap up those two ends.
Yeah, because that's good storytelling, Matt.
But
I don't think
if it's good storytelling, they should do that. Announce that soon, so they can tell that story for all the fans that don't know about it. Right?
Yeah,
No,
something-
anyway.
or Jason Jordan coming back. Jason Jordan and Corbin
No,
would be a good story.
absolutely not. I disagree. That would be worse than Corbin.
Really?
I can't. Yeah, I hate that kid. I don't like it.
Especially if you're telling the story in 2 weeks. Plus, he's
Yeah, that's
wrestled in a year. You know, it's
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Finn Balor.
yeah. We'll see.
Nobody cares about the IC title right now because they've done a horrible job.
I agree. Yeah, don't be too stuck on Finn and Bobby. I mean, Finn and Kurt. Finn could work around, Kurt's injuries.
Absolutely, like a friggin' pro. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah. I was disappointed with Chad Gable and Kurt, but I think a lot of that has to do with, Chad's not that.
You think he was good?
No, he's awesome, but
Yeah.
he's very. So much of his offense is that amateur style, and it's just not working with Kurt right now to do that against him. And you know what I mean? Like, you need someone that'll bump for him, that'll fly around for him.
Yes.
Someone like Sean back in the day.
Yes.
And I think Finn would be that guy.
That's actually what you're right.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I think Kurt is past the age of being able to do a technical demonstration with someone of his caliber. So, no, it's good.
Chain wrestling though, even though you might be older and banged up, that doesn't take anything to do though. Like, as far as like, you're not limited because of a neck injury where you can't chain wrestle. So I would argue he is okay on the mat.
Yeah.
Something about it reminded me, like when you see on wrestling teams there, I mean, even you guys have had this experience, it's like where the coach comes out and does something with the student. Like, it had a little of that vibe going on, which was cool in a way, but it was not a full on competitive match. Like, you're trying to kill the guy.
Like I saw him do to Brock Lesnar years ago.
Yes. So we'll see.
You were there?
Yeah. I was still in I was just completing, I want to say, Tough Enough. But they've done that more than one time, by the way. But they would go like really go.
Yeah.
They even do it in the locker room, dude. I remember a linoleum floor even once. I'm like, oh God, that's Goddard. What are you guys doing?
So the one you saw, because there were always like two versions. One that Kurt got the better of Brock. The other was that it was kind of like a draw.
It was kind of like a draw, leaning more toward Kurt. Though Kurt was totally using Brock's strength against him, and it was impressive as hell.
So
Like,
how does Brock react to something like that? Is he not just like pissed that he got shown up?
Red-faced, very red-faced. Yeah, he was.
What's
Yeah,
Daniel
I wish I had
Pewter up
footage
to?
of that.
Can't they bring him back? Isn't he the one?
Or
no?
Came across on YouTube the other day again.
Yeah, he got a job as a cop recently.
Really?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Best moment in history, Tough Enough, when they were on SmackDown.
It was something.
Yeah. It's a story, at least. I don't know. They got to do something. We'll see. WrestleMania will be here before we know it. What else, Raj? Anything else before we take this home?
Real quick, we need to talk about Wix.
Oh, I didn't see that in the show notes.
Oh, yes. So,
well, folks, your computer got you down. No, I'm joking.
we will get it. We will get that next time.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good. He's BP Matt Morgan. He's Raj Giri _303. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein, and we will see you back here on Monday for Raw. 2 more to go between now and Mania. Until then, take care.